Your brand is not your logo. This is going to be a deep dive masterclass. I'm going to take you to school, get some notes on what a brand actually is, how you can stand out, and how you're going to make some money with it, because that's the main goal of a brand. Okay, I'm Darren Monroe. I have 30 years marketing branding experience. I used to work for Universal, DreamWorks, MCA. I used to do the marketing for Jay-Z, Eminem, Limp Bizkit, Nelly Furtado, The Roots, right here, promoting their projects in Chicago, downtown Chicago, and around the city and across 5 different states. And what I'm going to do is break down a way where you can get some money. This is what it's about. I'm going to give you the real talk. First of all, yes, the brand is not your logo. You definitely want to subscribe to my channel and binge watch every single channel video I have in here, because this is where the real stuff is. So if it's not your logo, what is it? The logo is a representation of your brand. People ain't in line at iPhone trying to get the new iPhone because they saw the logo, they like the color, they liked your website. No, they want to be emotionally connected to you. Let me break it off for you like this. You got marketing, you got branding, you got sales. The marketing is what gets you to the store. The sales is what clarifies what the offer is in the store, but the branding is why they bought. There was a connection of something you said did connect with them. And your goal as a brand is to become the only emotional solution, because 99% of the people buy based on emotion. Let's go a little deeper into that. So in other words, a brand by definition, and it's the best damn definition you'll ever get in the world, a brand is a promise, pledge, commitment of what you stand for and stand definitely against. I'm here in Chicago. I stand for the Bears and I'm against Green Bay. I don't care what nobody say. To hell with Green Bay. If you love chocolate and you know you don't like pistachio, say that shit. You gotta go real with it. Because everybody doesn't, well, you don't want to be polarizing. No, you want to be polarizing, but not for the sake of being rude, not for the sake of disrespecting people, for the sake of what you believe. I don't care if I upset Green Bay fans. Fuck Green Bay. It's all about the Bears. I'm also a White Sox fan because I'm from the South Side. So fuck the Cubs. It's all about White Sox. Forget the Tigers, forget the Brewers, forget the Twins. You know, we have this Midwest battle in sports, right? So I'm always talking about that. Forget the Vikings, forget the Bucks. It's all about the Bulls, Bears, and the White Sox. Have an opinion. As much as they talk about Stephen A. Smith, the thing you got to respect, if you're trying to grow your brand and stand out, is that he has an opinion. You may not like it, but he has an opinion. Donald Trump, an opinion. You may not like it, but I don't like him neither. Donald Trump. But the thing is that he has an opinion. It's people who don't mush in the in-between. Have a definite opinion and you're going to win. You got to be that way about your brand. I teach people how to become a badass emotional brand. Fuck trying to fit in. To hell with trying to blend in. It's all about your ability to stand out in the marketplace. Because if you don't stand out, you won't win. For real. Real talk. Real talk. Real talk. We got to get to that level. We got to get there. Because the reality is, people are looking for people who are confident, who believe in what they're saying and what they're doing. And do you believe in what you believe in? Do you believe me when I'm talking about branding? Hey. So again, the definition of a brand is a promise, pledge, commitment. It's what you stand for and stand against, right? Okay. Let's talk about what the purpose of a brand is. Because I just gave you the definition. Here's the purpose of a brand. The purpose of a brand is to become the only emotional solution. The purpose of a brand is to become the only not number one, the only one. What's an example of that? Well, the number one basketball player at one point, the GOAT, I call him, being here in Chicago, Michael Jordan. What's the difference between Michael Jordan and Prince? Prince was exceptional. There will never be another Prince again. Michael Jordan was number one. Number one is like being at a concert and you're in the front line. Being exceptional is like being in VIP. If you have to go use the bathroom, you got to climb all the way back to the front. You could fall off if you're number one in any industry. But if you're the only one, there's no price comparison. Your goal is to become the unicorn. I'm a unicorn. I'm a unicorn that teaches companies, people who are entrepreneurs how to become unicorns. How do you become exceptional in the marketplace? I always bring up Starbucks. Starbucks said, hey, man, we're going to do customized coffee. It's going to cost $5 or more. We're going to have pastries, not donuts. We're going to have venti, not extra large. You'll never forget where venti comes from. They just coined that phrase so well, venti. Okay? They said we're going to be different. We're going to have a lounge place. And for the last 30 years, that's what they've done. 40 years, they've made these lounges instead of fast food environments like Dunkin' Donuts. They made a shift. You got to look at your industry and see everything they're doing and say what you agree with, what you agree against, what you disagree with. So the goal of that is to become, again, the only emotional solution, talking in your own energy. And yes, you can be an extrovert and an introvert doing that. Okay? What's an example of that? Brian Tracy, look him up. He's a business person and people love him because he talks like this. Or what about Mr. Rogers, the late great Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood? He talks like this. So when you say, oh, I'm an introvert, I can't bullshit. Stop giving that bullshit answer. You just got to have the balls to believe in something and stand behind it. What about Mother Teresa? Do you know how bad the Catholic Church was embarrassed by her? They did not like her. Most people don't know that. They didn't like her because she was always calling out the church for doing more things. But she was a very quiet little Albanian lady, Mother Teresa. She wasn't a big extrovert. No. You can be an introvert and pull this off. But your goal is to speak from your passion. Do you hear the emotion, the passion from me? I'm speaking in my own energy. Yes, I know I'm an extrovert and I have a great voice. But you don't need that. I've just brought up examples of people who don't have great voices, but are good at what they do and they're passionate about it. People don't want to know how much you know or what you sell until they know how much you care. I care about people standing out. I care about people earning money, especially online. I've been doing it for 20 years. I started from a FEMA paid for hotel, running away from Hurricane Katrina. Since then, I've helped over 100,000 people and sold over 100,000 products, programs, and services across the world. These days, I teach people how to become a badass emotional brand, link in my video in my homepage. But here's the thing I want you to understand. At the very least, you should be subscribing to me. Got hundreds of free videos. And what I'm telling you is, again, the definition of a brand, I've just given you a promise, pledge, commitment. The purpose of a brand, what it is you're supposed to be doing, become the only emotional solution. And then the third part is the goal of a brand. But before I go into the goal of a brand, let me break down becoming the emotional solution. How do you do that? Through stories. Think about what I just told you. This Chicago guy knew nothing about hurricanes. And I was living in New Orleans in radio. I was working in marketing in radio, by the way. I wasn't working on air, though I was on air several times before. I was the person just talking, just connecting and talking and speaking. And from that passion, people could see. I was a go-getter. I didn't ask for permission. I just went and did it. I spoke from the heart. Can you do that? Are you passionate about what you do? Can you speak from the heart? And I told stories. I told the story about how I got into this business just now from a FEMA paid for hotel. I tell stories about my offers. Why did I get into badass emotional branding? Because I got tired of seeing people doing what everybody else is doing, getting their asses kicked, and them getting upset about it, thinking they got to be like the latest guru motherfucker, and they don't. You could be a creator, you could be selling whatever the hell you're selling watching this, and be unique through your story, through your approach, be the weird one in the room. By the way, my favorite book is by Seth Godin. My favorite business book is called by Seth Godin. It's called We're All Weird. Why do I like that book? Why do I love that book? Because it outlines a society that we live in of micro niche people. I mean, I'm in a city where there's 3 million people, but there's a small group of people for everybody in this city and around the world. You don't have to be famous. You just have to be passionate and pull in your audience. If what I'm saying this point 10 minutes in that I'm pulling you in, then you are the person who should be subscribing and connecting with me. You don't have to be like them. You're more valuable than you think. And the idea is that if you can tell stories about how you got into what you're doing, think about what I just did. I told a story of how I got into business. I told a story of why I teach branding. But then I tell funny stories about some of these, plaques on the wall, some of these famous people with plaques on the wall, and the stories behind them are very funny. I tell funny stories about how Jill Scott, who's won, countless awards, double platinum, super talent lady, big shout out to Philly. And she snuck up on me at the House of Blues right up the street here in Chicago about 26 years ago. I can't even believe it's been 26 years, 1999, while the Roots were on tour for this particular album I was working. And I went back to college and I was here, and a guy, Steve McKeever, who started Hidden Beach Records, I became the first intern of Hidden Beach Records. Nobody knew who Jill was then. And she is a brilliant artist. Look her up. She's brilliant. If you don't know who she is, she's a brilliant artist. And she snuck up on me, but nobody knew who she was. In fact, she was so unknown, she was singing the song called You Got Me, which featured Erykah Badu. Erykah Badu was singing her lyrics. Here's the incredible part about that. She was on tour with them instead of Erykah, so she can get out there with her album coming out, right? Who's Jill Scott? And I was promoting Who's Jill Scott right in front of the Hidden Beach, and she snuck up on me right in front of the House of Blues for Hidden Beach as an intern, and she snuck up on me. Well, who's Jill Scott? Is that Jill Scott there? And I said, no, it's Jill Scott. She said, oh, you ought to say that name more you ought to smile more when you say that name. I'm like, Jill? That's how I met Jill. Now, why am I telling you that story? Because it's one thing to talk about story of my company, how I got in business, story of what I sell and why I do it with badass emotional branding. But it's another thing to tell stories that have nothing to do with the first two stories. It shows you'll never forget that story, especially if you're a Jill Scott fan, if you're an artist fan, you always remember that. You tell stories that emotionally connect with people who say, you know what, at the very least, I'm going to subscribe to Darren's channel and thank you for your subscription. But you also say, ooh, Darren, I'm going to have to do business with Darren. Darren's awesome. He certainly is. And if you laughed, well, I just got you there emotionally. Becoming the number one emotional solution makes you unique. Your stories are unique. Mine's unique. Yours unique. Everybody's unique. That's what makes you stand out. And your goal is to stand out from 100% of your competition. You do that by, again, what your definition is of a brand, what you stand for, what you stand against, and outlining that all the time across the web. Putting that all into your content. You go through all my hundreds of videos, you'll see that exact same thinking in my content. Standing out. Then telling these stories that in your own energy that makes people laugh, cry, think about things. That's incredible. That'll make you stand out. Do you know, as I'm doing this video, it's August of 2020, and we're coming up on the week that I fled for my life from New Orleans, from that hurricane 20 years ago. And I haven't had a job since. I've been working in an environment where I could stand out. I figured it out without big major advertising. How do I take on big companies? By becoming a unicorn, becoming exceptional. I can't battle big gurus with budgets who say, I'll show you branding. But I can be a person who open up the camera and just talk to you from the heart and resonate with you. And you can do that too in your own energy. So we know what the definition is. We know what the purpose is. Let's talk about what the goal of a brand is. The goal of a brand is not what you think it is. Many times you got a lot of entrepreneurs say, you can make money without branding. Don't do branding, because they think branding is imaging. It's like the 1980s where you had the Coca-Cola commercial. I like to teach the world to sing. I don't know. That might have been in the 70s, but you know what I'm saying. You think it was a commercial and it was image and it had nothing related to sales. I'm saying just the opposite. Branding is about income. You emotionally connect with people as they are going to lead them to a sale. Yeah, it's okay. See, again, marketing brings people. Marketing is what brought you to see this video. Sales is what clarifies the offer. Hey, I got a badass emotional branding offer to join my badass emotional branding group. Link in my description, link in my profile. And it's going to help you stand out from 100% of your competition emotionally in a real cool, organic way in your own energy. That clarified the offer, right? Now you go there, you see the price, you'll see what's going on. But branding is why you bought. I may have made you laugh. I may have told you stories. I may have told stories about my background. I may be educating you. I become what I call an AOE, and you can become that too. Okay? OE, let's call it online educator, somebody who's always up there and you're speaking from passion, your energy. When you're doing that, you're going to make a lot of money. A lot. Especially when you know how to charge the right way. Not just multiple sources of income, but multiple prices, and become exceptional. Now, understanding that your goal of a brand is not image, it's about income. The goal is to make money in 4 ways. It's to get people to buy from you faster, at higher conversions, meaning for every 10, a brand will sell 3 or more versus 1. Because people are passionate about you and trust you, know, like, and trust you. To get people to buy at higher prices, people pay more money for Tide, don't they? The detergent, because it's a trusted brand, not only a name they know, but a name they trust. So they'll buy at higher prices repeatedly. So again, the goal of a brand is for income, so they buy quickly, faster, at higher conversions. For every 10, you'll get 5 people at higher rates, sometimes 4, 5, 10 times more for those rates, and at higher and repeatedly. For instance, you see these glasses? I was born with cataracts. There's another story, this, the third thing, the different story, like I said about Jill Scott, this totally different, right? So I got a great story about Versace. I did not care about Versace. Of course, I heard of the brand, but these, in 50 years that I was born with cataracts, are the best glasses I've ever had in my life. I will always buy them as long as they have some great frames like this. I love these glasses. Always get great compliments about it. Love these glasses. Stand behind them 1,000%. I didn't even know Versace had their logos on this. Sometimes you have those luxury brands who put their logos on stuff and it's crap, right? No, they did a great job with these frames. It's brilliant. It's exceptional. I will always buy from them until the day I die. I love it, as long as they come with this brand. But I paid 400 to 500% more, 4 to 5 times more money than anybody else's frame and brand out there. Facts. It was crazy. I paid way more money. I can't believe it. But I believe it now. I'll gladly pay more money again. For real. So what I'm saying to you is that if you're willing to again, you got to be willing to put the money in to get the top brands that you know, like, and trust. And when they are that way, when they're passionate about you, you get more money. So again, you define what you stand for and stand against. You talk about from passion, from stories connecting to people, because people like the brand, they'll buy from you. You come in and understand that the goal of that brand is to get you more money. So you're putting that stuff into your content. That's why it's not your logo. Those people are standing in line for iPhones because they loved what iPhone did for them. I got a great iPhone story. Again, it leads to my brand, so you'll do business with me and at the very least subscribe to my channel, right? So here's my iPhone story. I was always Galaxy until 2015, 10 years ago. And then they had this thing come out called Periscope. It was the beginning, Periscope and Vine were the beginning of live streaming. They were the beginning. And I wanted to be on. And I didn't know what to do, because I couldn't get my Galaxy because they weren't even going Galaxy phones yet. Turned out the iPhone is always on the cutting edge of the best apps. I made money with it. I got my iPhone 6 Plus back then. And that was in July of 2015. I'm telling you, by the end of the year, 2015, December, I had done 30 grand in business. So ain't going nowhere since. And it's so funny because I can think of all of the different new apps that came in social media or other things that I use that made me a freaking fortune. Now I have an iPhone 13 Max Pro, 1 terabyte. I can't wait till they get 2 or 3 terabytes because I got about 500 gigs on it from all the videos I'm using, all the video editing I use, all that stuff. It's crazy. I love it. I love it. I love it. I swear by iPhone. Not because I'm a big Mac user, because I'm not. I got PCs here. I got PCs. But here's the thing. I love it. They were exceptional. They were. Hands down. I'm sold on that brand. What I'm trying to tell you is that people are in line for iPhone for different reasons. For me, it was 30 grand. They did it some money, right? And plus the fact that they're always on the cutting edge, which if I'm in the online world, I should be on the cutting edge. But the other thing was they made a smooth process it easier for me. And I'm not stuck to something so much that I can't change, especially if it's something I need to grow with. Now, going back to branding, understand this. What you stand for, stand against. I stand for iPhone. Branding, becoming the only emotional solution. That's the purpose of the brand. 30 grand will make you emotional. And I made a lot more money since then, hundreds of thousands. Number 3, which is powerful, is the goal of a brand. Income. The goal is about income. It's about that money. Income. Getting that money. It's not about image. It's about you being able to stand out and make yourself not shoppable. They can't shop you. They can't compare you. You are exceptional. You do those 3 things and attach it to an offer. Because again, sales clarifies the offer. Marketing got you here. Sales takes you through the sales process and clarifies the offer. But the brand is why you bought. Think about it. When's the last time Nike told you go buy something? They say just do it, but they didn't say just do it at the cash register. They were like, here's our thought, just do it. These are our shoes. And everybody wanted them shoes. Start talking from the heart and from your brand. You will win. You will win. Hands down. Hands down. Seriously. I want you to understand what I've just explained to you and how to use it. This is just a teeny bit of what is on my channel. If you want to binge watch my channel, go for it. This is just a teeny bit of the high focus you get to learn about branding to apply in your business. If you think that websites and logos and pretty colors are brands, you are wrong. There's so many people. There's a whole industry, a billion-dollar industry, selling you on what they think branding is. And it's bullshit because you don't sell jack shit with a fancy website logo and colors. There ain't nobody gonna buy from you on that. You'll look appealing, and sometimes people might buy, but that's not the core of why they buy. It's the stories you tell, the content you put out, what you say. How do you bring that every time across on the web, organically or through paid ads? And what can you say that makes you exceptionally different? Think of this drink, look it up, called White Claw. Ain't nothing but a little seltzer alcoholic drink. White Claw. Or think of Liquid Death. That's seltzered water, man. And it looks dope as well. Liquid Death. Okay? Think about all the cool stuff, the cool brands that you have, that you love, that you stand behind, because they were different. There's this company, I'll never forget, it's here in Chicago, it's called Bingo Tea. Now there's tons of bubble tea, Chinese bubble tea places. But I remember Bingo Tea. Why? Not only because of their logo. Yeah, you remember the logo. Again, it's a representation of your brand. It's the fact that every time they delivered something to me, it was nicely packaged up. 90% of the time, it was nicely packaged up. You couldn't forget it. In this Bingo Tea, it was an experience. Plus, their product is great. It tastes great. But here's what they did today that made me never forget them, and I will be their customer for life. They gave me a free canister that you put your tea in. They gave me a free one and said, with a little message, we're moving. Let me see if I can find this message. Yeah, they gave me this little bitty message. We're moving away. You can screenshot it. We're moving at the end of the month, and we want to thank you for being our customer. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We love you. First of all, I called them people up. I talked to one of them. I think it was Al. His partners, Al and Ben. And I talked to Al. And I said, Al, I order from you guys all the time. My name's Darren Monroe, and I live at, he said, oh, I know who you are. You're the brown on lawn tea, the brown sugar on lawn tea guy. I said, yeah, you know me? He said, yeah, that's great. Because I order from them all the time, but it's cool to call up and be recognized. I said, man, I wanted to thank you so much for that canister you gave me. And it's a very nice canister. I got it in my freezer. It's I will never forget. And because they're moving, so they're going to be closed for a while. We don't know how long because they got to find a new place next week. I said, dude, I'm coming in this weekend. I've never been in a store. I always ordered through Grubhub to get the tea. I'm going in the store just to greet them, to say hello and thank you. And then I'm going to take pictures and videos and so on. But here's what I did do. I took that canister, I took that brown sugar tea, and I put it on one of my big sites, one of my big profiles, because I'm a liberal. And I do have a political niche that I talk about. And I have hundreds of thousands of followers, right? So I put it, since they're on Instagram and they're on Facebook, I hardly have nobody on Facebook. It's private. But I put it up there on Facebook. And then I put the other one, and I followed them on Facebook. And then I followed them on Instagram, where I have, like, on my political niche, Darren Monroe Politics, I have 30,000 something followers. I said, my favorite tea ever. And took a picture, made a little, I think it was a reel or a picture or whatever, and tagged them on it. And they tagged it in their Instagram. But more importantly, I'm going to go in there, greet them, say hello, and I'm going to buy a bunch of tea out of there too. Because it's cool, because I could, because I don't put the bubbles in it, the tapioca bubbles. I do like them, but I got to the point where I love the tea so much, I don't even need the tapioca bubbles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a bunch of tea and put it in, refrigerator, and maybe even some in the freezer, So I could have tea for a while until they found their new place because next week they're closing. But I'll never ever forget them for that. I'll never forget they did this. I'll never forget they sent these great packages. I'll never forget they sent me a gift. They cared. Out of all the stuff I ever ordered, there was only a handful of people who did something like that. They're exceptional. What can you do to be exceptional? And I'm not just talking about the extra gifts. What can you step out and do with your hardcore people? Because I'm telling each and every one of you, you'll make a bag. You develop 1,000 hardcore fans who join you, who love you, who connect with you. That's what it's all about. That's how you become a badass emotional brand. There's deeper stuff in my program, but the idea is this. Even if you just follow me here for hundreds of videos, you get tons of content. This is a free masterclass telling you your brand is not your logo, it's not your colors, it's not your website. It's how you relate back to people, because marketing will bring people to you like you brought here. You came here. But it is the brand that emotionally connects with people and leads to a sale. That's how you build forever. And the good news is anyone can do this, but not everyone will, because every industry that is watching this, everybody, 99% of which are trying to copy, and they're just trying to look pretty on the internet. And it's not about that. If you resonated with what I'm saying, first, share this. Second, subscribe and connect with me, all right? Much love to you. I want to see you profit. I want to see you prosper by being a badass emotional brand.